Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Your Honor, Season 2, Episode 2. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. I think an interesting theme of this episode seems to be kind of like, almost like this entire season is going to be the continuous aftermath, but there's almost like this aftermath feel of just seeing where the chips fell, like in the aftermath of everything, like fully to some extent, and just everyone kind of finding thereafter, after everything, and it's like Michael, out from prison, stops by their house, and it's one thing when it's like, right, a family's moved into that house, there's that, but also just the fact is, it's a full family, it's a husband, wife, and son, it's like, and so that's got to cut deep in his regard, just because it's like, right, you're the only one in your immediate family standing. Your wife is gone, your son is gone. So that obviously they meant that to sting even more, just a reminder of what he's lost and what he doesn't have anymore. And he goes to the one person he can right now, and that's the only other family he's got, and that's his mother-in-law. And, she tried, apparently he's kept silent over the past year. And so she's like, right, so you're not going to be here long? And he's like, no. She's like, good. Because it's a complicated thing, because it's like, right, you are family, but she also knows a lot of what he did. And I think generally speaking, everyone knows what he did. I think it's just, probably like when he went to court and stuff. So it's public record what he did. So everyone had to hear the details about what he did. So it's just, it's up there. But they also ended up making it so that, like, right, it ended up being, because the whole point was the whole point was like Al Capone style. Olivia set it up to be like, no, we take him on taxes, because the last thing we want to do is like, we're not going to let him just skate away for everything he did. Fine, let's get him on taxes or something, some BS like that. But it's like, right, I just don't want to take the chance that, because if of those charges ever came up in court, he'd have to admit to some of the testimony he gave to Nancy in his confession, which meant taking down not only Jimmy, but it's like, no, we need it, so I don't need Jimmy to know he's a snitch. That was the whole point last episode, right? So I guess, so now I'm saying that, it does make me wonder, but I still feel like everyone knows, because even later on, he goes to try to go see Charlie, and the guy there won't let him go, even though it's like, yeah, it's like, there was never going to be any like letting you go through it. I think that speaks volumes about Michael. He doesn't have the fight in him anymore. All that fight he put in to save his son, it's gone. That spark's gone. Like, because what's the point of living anymore? So, and even Alan, because Alan was like his bailiff in his courtroom, wasn't he? And it's like, oh, Alan, like, they won't let me. He's like, yeah, I assumed they wouldn't. And it turns out Olivia's the one that set that up, because it's like, oh, you think I was going to be stupid and let you be able to warn Charlie? No. This is what's going to happen. You even utter the words, federal investigation, even in a storm, I will throw you back in jail. Your life is over. But for him, it's just like, I can't do it. Not because I don't like, it's just, I legitimately just don't have it in me. And she's like, no, I know you don't, but don't worry. I'm going to give you a helping hand. So she hooks him up with a job. And I thought that was interesting how it kind of comes full circle with his old job, because the guy who runs, he's like, you don't even remember me, do you? He's like, I was going to go away for like over a decade plus for some drug charges, but you got it reduced to 8 months because you said a good person doesn't deserve to rot in jail. So, and that ends up being, I think, going to be a major theme this season, is like, good people. Like, it is that conversation of, should you at your worst define you for the rest of your life? Or should you be accountable for every other day in your life? If you're a decent person and there's one very, very terrible thing you did led to so much, it's like, does that define the rest of your life? In a lot of cases, yes. In Nancy's eyes, it's like, no, you lied, you manipulated, and you used me. If you had come to me, I get it, you wanted to protect Adam, but it's like, yo, when it's all said and done and your guardian angel vanishes on you, like, oh, who's going to be the first one to see you after it? It's going to be me, and she's going to be the one that kind of put him back. Because it's like, right, now that everything's out in the open, you don't, there's no more lies between us. You don't even have a single word to say to me. Which for him, it's like, what can I say? Nothing I can say will remedy any of this. It doesn't make it any better. You already understand why I did it. So any explanations would simply be excuses. So Michael I think for him, it's just like, there literally are no words to say under these circumstances. So I think that's kind of where things kind of stand for him in that regard. But, hooked him up with a job delivering meat, and the moment he was like, we saw him like delivering one point, and then like the next you see him kind of look at the list, you're like, right, it's got him delivering. It's not specifically to the hotel, but it might as well be delivering it to the Baxters. And lo and behold, who does he run into? It's Thea, because, well, for one, it's like, well, everything went down there, so there's that reminder. Plus, it's also connected to the Baxters, so it's just a double whammy. But in the case of Thea, she's living there now because she needed to get away from her parents. I think it's a combination of the way she puts it is she couldn't deal with it anymore. She couldn't deal with Dad anymore. Because I think Jimmy was too on the sidelines when it came to her mom. Like, because she was like, right, Mom's one thing, but you and me, we're on a kind of our own team. But she feels like you played middle ground too much. Rather than just being on my side, you're two in the middle. You're trying, but it also probably doesn't even feel like the middle to her. It feels like you're on Mom's side. I mean, we find out Gina's actually at anger management therapy and stuff like that because Thea suggested that, but she's lashing out at all the other people. It's like, oh, here you are whining because your mom died. It's like, that's cold. And it's like, oh, you shut up. Don't talk to me. Your son died from an overdose. My son was taken from me. It is the thing of like, right, she's kind of taking her anger and her grief and kind of making it seem greater than everyone else's. But I think it is that thing of like, yeah, no one can actually tell you how to grieve. Your grief is yours and yours alone. No one else can define it. No one else can be in your shoes because your grief is yours. So I'm not going to be like, I mean, she comes off dickish, sure, but it's also like, right, people when they're heartbroken, when they're angry and they're sad, it's like, yeah, the person who killed your son is dead. You know, but it's also the thing of, it still doesn't bring him back. All the revenge she got just ended up circling the drain even more. I mean, never got revenge against. I think it's also, that's why she was so about getting Eugene, because it's like, right, we got justice for one son, another one's about to get killed potentially. It's like, I nearly died having one taken from me. I'm not going to have another one of my babies taken from me. And anyone that tries that, they're going to like, I mean, once again, it's like, you're the one that want to make moves the way you did. I mean, Eugene wouldn't even be where he is right now if you didn't basically kill him and Kofi's entire family. And it's like, right, Eugene was left with nothing. And that's also the thing. You got your grief and your anger. He's got his. I mean, you know, that's the sad, brutal cycle of this whole thing. It just keeps going. It's a beast forever feeding itself. But Thea had that conversation, circling back a little bit. She had that conversation with Gina, and it was, I mean, not Gina, Michael. She had that conversation with Michael, and it's like, right, about all the conversations she wasn't able to have with Adam. It's like, I didn't get to know his perspective on things. That's like what really hurts her the most. And she's like, yeah, my friends think it's kind of twisted. I will move into the place where my boyfriend was murdered. But also, and Michael kind of put it in that same regard of like, right, they don't understand your pain. Because in Thea's case too, like her grief and her pain is her own too. But it's like, you know. But it's like, even then, it's like, no, like everyone, because he's like, everyone lost Adam in their own way. So my grief of losing Adam isn't the same as yours, because even the dynamic's different. It's like, right, I lost a son, you lost a boyfriend, the father of your child. You know, he didn't know that at the time, but yeah. So it's completely different circumstances, and that pain is different. It doesn't make it any less, it just makes it different. And there's a whole conversation. Because obviously her mom's very like religious and stuff like that, but I think her dad is too. But it's like, yeah, I'm not really about that. But she's like, right, did he believe in God, heaven, and hell? And for Michael, it's like, even he doesn't really know, but he says that Adam would love those type of conversations, because Adam, he loved to question things. And it's like, me personally, he's like, I don't know if there's a heaven or hell, the God stuff. He's like, I don't know all about that, but he knows. I know that good people go where they deserve. Because I think for him, he believes, like, I have to believe that. Because, like, my son wasn't a bad person. He made a mistake. If anything, he's like, those sins are mine and mine alone. And the fact of the matter is, he's like, I'm hoping that my son is wherever he isn't going to be in a good place, that he's with his mom. Like, they are with each other. That's the solace that he has. And him and Fia having that hug and Jimmy seeing it, because like Jimmy and Fia aren't in a good place yet. You know, it's like her and Michael have a decent relationship. I think that's an interesting and complicated thing for Jimmy to probably be feeling right now too. I mean, who knows if what went fully down in that entire year, because obviously we got little snapshot moments here with Fia and her family, but we don't know the ins and outs of maybe there was more that went on besides my theories about like, right, her and her father, like her father ended up kind of choosing more on her mom's side of things, and that led to a fallout between them, or who knows. I mean, she's still on good terms with Carlos, but I don't know if there's anything extra that potentially happened in between that really kind of strained that relationship even more than what it already is, right? So that ends up being kind of something to consider in the long run. But staying on the Baxters for a little bit, they feel like Fia is trying to punish them because it's like, right, because of whatever we did. And, you know, Carlos kind of trying to get her to kind of cut them some slack. Even to the point Gina rolls up and, you know, she's like, right, oh, here you are. You're a real independent woman, Fia, you're moving out your parents' house and moving into the hotel that we own, and even trying to say like, right, you've done enough. Don't you think you've done enough? Kind of cut us some slack. And for her, it's like, yeah, Mom, get off that effing cross. And then she slaps her, and it's like, walks away, doesn't even say anything else. And when she goes to her meeting later on, she's like, right, she's like, I came in here judging all of you, but obviously the stages of grief, I'm going through them. I'm just not going through them in the right order. She's like, the lady who's in charge is like, I completely understand. You're right. No one can tell you what the road to acceptance is, because that road looks different for everyone. But she's like, no. I think you're misinterpreting it. My anger is where I'm at. And that's where I want to live. That's where I want to be right now. I want to live in that anger, because for her, I think that anger is where she thrives. That is me. That is my anger. I have every right to live in that anger and hold on to that anger, because it is my comfort place. It's where I need to be, because she doesn't want other people telling her to kind of like move on and stuff. It's like, no, shut up. You don't get to tell me what I get to feel and where I get to be in my process, essentially. And who knows? Because she doesn't want acceptance. She wants to stay in that anger. And obviously we see too that it caused a strain in her and Jimmy's relationship, to the point like she had to sneak into the room. Oh, I didn't know you were still here. She's like, yeah, the steam in my shower is messed up. He's like, fine, I'll leave. It's like, she's even covering herself up. I'm like, yo, I mean, even I'm almost like, I mean, it's almost that thing of like, it's almost like an ex thing where it's like, it's a weird thing where it's like, we are, I guess it's borderline separated, yet still living in the same house, almost without filing for separation. But it is that weird thing of like, well, I've seen you naked. It's like, yeah, but it'd be the same thing, I guess, equivalency of like, if you like somehow like we're at an ex's place and you happen to see them naked. It's like, but I've seen you naked before. It's like, yeah, but we're not together, so you shouldn't be able to see this. It's like, not even like she was fully naked. She was still wearing her pants and a bra, but I'm still, you know, so I don't know. It's just kind of an interesting situation. So we also have Charlie visiting Michael, and Michael subtly trying to allude to like, hey, you might want to keep your back, you know, you never know, like they could always try to come after you. But he's like, nah, we don't got to worry about it. Like the only people who know are Rudy's not going to say anything, and you and me, and neither one of us is going to talk. Is like, ugh, if only you knew. So that is going to come, like the fact is they're leading into that. This is what I keep describing the show as. You never know in this Jenga puzzle that is this show, Jenga block game that is this show, you never know which block is going to get pulled when. That's the thing. You're just like, all right, there's so many things, so many threads that could get pulled right now. We just don't know which one is going to get pulled and when, you know, so that's a major thread of like, right, when is Michael going to break the news to Charlie, or when is Charlie going to end up stumbling across the information himself? Who knows? But I love the metaphor that, I mean, it's not even a metaphor. It's a real issue that like, I don't know if it's Louisiana as a whole, or is it just specifically to New Orleans? Because that's Florida. I think, doesn't Florida have the same issue, or is it, I don't know, maybe the whole like grave issue that like, right, you have to bury your dead higher up because the sea levels will literally like bring the bodies to the surface if you don't. So, and he's saying like, right, you and me, Michael, we try to bury a body, but we forgot that this is a city where if you're not burying something deep, even if you don't bury something deep enough, or was it? No, it was like, it's not that you have to bury it closer to the surface. You have to bury stuff even deeper. I forgot how I'm mixing that up. I'm forgetting like how it actually works in New Orleans in that regard of like, because, but the whole point is like, right, the water levels get so high that the dead will get washed up like from their graves. Like if you don't like handle that properly. And it's like, right, we try to bury something in a city that constantly washes up like dead bodies from the grave, from cemeteries and stuff. So it's like, I'm butchering it, but it was such a apt and beautiful metaphor, considering it's like, right, we should have known better in this city, and our dirt came rising. Because he was like, yeah, when it's all said and done, the only thing that's going to be buried beneath us isn't even going to be the bodies. It's going until the dirt is gone. Like that's the only thing that's going to be there. And it was like, right, it wasn't a body, it was a car, but you know, the metaphor still sticks, you know. So I thought that was so fascinating. Speaking of Charlie too, he's helping out with Big Mo, which I wish I'd stayed around for the credits because I clicked away, but I want to say, wasn't that, I'm probably butchering her name, isn't that actress that's the singer? I'm like, isn't her name Sierra Renee? I could be mistaken. Like the thing I best know her from is like she was Hulk Girl in like season 1 of Legends of Tomorrow. I want to say I believe that's the same actress. I think that's her. I've seen her in a few other things, but obviously, like, that was, like, my first introduction to her, so that's always kind of rattling off in my head when it comes to that role. But either way, her and Big Mo have a thing, because at first I was like, that seemed like that's kind of, I was like, is this an intimate thing? Or I was about to say, if that was, like, your child or something, you wouldn't, it was like, okay, no, it's a thing, and Big Mo wants to purchase the bar. And so, I don't know if Big Mo plans on getting out the drug game or not. Who knows? But either way, I mean, her situation's kind of screwed right now because, well, she has no product to sell because the current batch ended up getting cut with fentanyl. People are ODing, so kinda gotta scrap that, get a refund if they can. If not, well, we're still going to get our refund, but we're going to break stuff. We're going to cause a problem until we get a refund from the guy. So Lil Mo goes handling that by going to, first and foremost, he's checking on Eugene, but he also has business in the area. He goes, sees his cousin, who's going to like act as an in-between with a guy, was it Roderick? And it's like, cool, let's start off with two, I don't even remember the measurement they were using. It's like, oh yeah, let's kind of go with 2. It's like, no, I only move real weight, so let's go with 10. It's like, nah, we're gonna try it out for 2. He's like, all right, because you want to be like that, it's 20 now. But for Mo, it's like, dude, like this guy, like I have to beg him to do business with me. It's like, and his cousin's like, yo, do this, because if you do this, that means instead it could be one big deal rather than 10 small deals. And for him, it's like, the less I have to be the middleman in this situation, because if things go wrong, I'm the one that catches heat. It puts me in a complicated situation, but also buying that much weight at once when you can't really move that much like that, when you don't have what it takes to really like move things like that, it can put you in a very compromised position. That's why he's only asking for a little bit. Plus, they also don't have the money for that right now, especially considering they have to basically, well, whatever they're getting back from the drugs they bought that they have to basically flush now because it was cut with fentanyl, it still won't be enough to pay for all of that. So how Lil Mo's going to handle the money situation on that front is like, especially at the time when, well, not unless everything with Big Mo buying the club works out in her favor. She ended up having to call in a favor with Charlie, which I love the whole thing of like, yeah, he won't buy won't let me buy the club. He's like, why? An independent businesswoman? It's like, exactly. Like, yeah, I love the like wink, wink, nudge, nudge spin to like what she does. So like, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, she is an entrepreneur and independent, you know, she's kind of a CEO in her own right, you know, so but it's like, yeah, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. I'm going to make the whole overdoses happening in the 9th Ward disappear. Don't worry about that. And he's like, all right, I'll help you out if you make sure this is the last time. So, but then like you see Gina looking at them and then like, well, Charlie doesn't notice her, but Big Mo does. And those two looking at each other, it's like, ooh, the queen bees looking at each other. You know, like, all that spice. You know, Gina's going to have an issue. Or the fact is, you buying that. Like, it's just, you know, that's going to irk her. Because, like, oh, dude, I don't know. And that's going to be interesting to see what that turns out to be. But also, like, her relationship with the mayor, that's, well, with Charlie, who's potentially going to be the mayor. Like, I think that's going to, like, slide and feel a certain way to Gina. But Charlie does come through and he kind of sets up the whole thing. And Big Mo is like, yo, like this place is important to me. I get it. It's important to you, Richard, but it's important to me too. So it seems like they're kind of like, I'm assuming that deal went through. So there's also this situation where Michael's mother-in-law found out he was sleeping in the pantry, because for him it's like the bed was, I mean, he did what he could, but it's still probably like, well, because it's a guest room and there's pictures of Robin. Well, they're not the pictures he put away. It was specifically the picture of Adam that made him like, he's like, no, I need to put this away. I can't keep looking at this. It's just too much of a reminder of what he lost. So, and also just like he couldn't just sleep in that bed. It felt wrong and uncomfortable. And she told him like, no, you're gonna sleep in the guest room because that's what it is for. You're a guest, so that's where you're gonna sleep. And he lays in the bed, but he can't sleep. And he visits the cemetery. Like she's like, oh, where are you sneaking off everyone? He's like, to the cemetery. She's like, they're not there. The fact of the matter is, she's like, I have this plant. It blooms once a year. That's when I'm going to put this on. That's going to be a one-time visit, because it's like, you want to visit all those times because you want to be closer to them. They're not there. In her mind, it's like, right, their souls are gone. They're not on this plane of existence anymore. They're in heaven, So I'm going to show up one time to honor them, but I'm not going to go every day to feel close to them. I'm going to do one day to honor them and remember them and keep them close to me, but know that they're not there. So that's why I don't need to visit. But I think there's also a part of Michael that visits because of his guilt on many different fronts. His personal guilt of just like, I'm the only one left standing, so like survivor's guilt on that front, but also just remorse of, yeah, like not only are you gone, but also our baby boy is gone, and it's on like some choices I made led to all of this too. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see where things kind of ultimately go on that front. And I touched on it a little. I touched on it a little bit with the whole Eugene thing. But Lil Mo went to visit him. Eugene's now going by Justin, which I love that later on they're like, oh, Justin. It took him a little while because he's probably still not used to it yet. It's still probably like, it's been a while, but it still hasn't quite adjusted for him yet still. It seems like because he's like, oh, how's my auntie? I don't know if that's like, is it just like, yo, like she's someone that is like family to me. That might be his cousin's mom or whatever. But I was also, because I was about to say, like, not unless that's Big Mo's like sister or something like that. I don't know. I mean, just because they're related don't mean she's in the biz or anything like that or has any correct connections. Like, yo, like Big Mo's thing is her thing, my thing is mine. So. But Eugene got called into the office because of pictures he drew. There's specifically pictures from when he killed Adam and when his family's house blew up. And it's like, oh, this person set fire to it. He's like, no, they didn't set fire to the house. It's that person escaping. And it's like, oh, do you think of yourself as a violent person? And even then, like, he talks to his guardian to some extent later on and being like, she asked me if I am. And once again, it's that conversation of you at your worst, yes. We all have good in us. There are good seeds in us, and those seeds never go away. The bad in us can always be uprooted. So, and she's like, Justin. He's like, Justin, that's not my name. She's like, if you can be Justin, I can be Justin's mom. And she signs the paper as kind of like his guardian in that regard. So, we'll see whether, like I say, the fact is, I was like, I figured we weren't going to be done with Eugene, but like, it's not going to end there. That's another plot thread that's like circling out there, especially because Mo made a point to be like, yo, I'm going to make sure that Eugene never shows up again. It's like, that's foreshadowing. The fact is, he will. Whether it's just because he wants revenge against Carlos and the Baxters still, and he refuses to let go, or maybe they put some fillers out and they find out that Eugene's actually still alive and they track him down. I mean, who knows, that situation with what Mo's setting up there, little Mo, that could end up backfiring and that could end up exposing Eugene in some regard. I don't know. There's so many threads in which, shit could go super sideways, so. And then finally, at the end of the episode, we have Fia introducing Michael to his grandson, Rocco Adam Baxter. So, once again, I think that would kind of give him something to live for, because we saw at one point after his conversation with Nancy, he went back to his mother-in-law's house and he's like fixing a belt. I was like, yeah, this is about to get dark. And he puts he uses it as a leash, but it's still like, it crossed his mind, because if you look at his arms, he did try and kill himself, like, because he's got marks from like him cutting his try to probably cut his wrist and stuff. So I'm like, that was pretty dark, understandably so. So it's definitely going to be interesting to ultimately see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.